A small ceramic goat figure made by King Charles over half a century ago is sold at auction. The item fetching about $16,000 when it went up for sale yesterday. The figure spent 55 years in the hands of a Canadian man who received the goat as a gift on his 21st birthday. The goat's previous owner said he wanted the figurine to find a new home where it would continue to be treasured.
Welcome everybody to the Wake Up Call channel. You couldn't make it up if you tried. King Charles, this is a story that's circulating right now about King Charles and how he sculpted, of all things, a goat 55 years ago. And now this goat is being sold at auction from anywhere from $12,000 to $16,000. I'm surprised it's not going for $33,000 or the price of 66 turds, or 666 turds, I should say. But the fact that this story is out there, it's pretty comical, right? First of all, how would a story like this ever even be out there in the first place without them putting it out there? This has been picked up by the BBC, by the New York Post, by pretty much all major media outlets. And you might think that the timing's a little bit suspicious, right? Because about 3 weeks ago, you may remember a video I did, and you probably saw many people covering this topic, of the actual portrait that was released of King Charles, where you could flat out see a goat in the picture, the mirrored picture. You could see a goat directly in it. And it was, people were putting it in black and white. They were doing all sorts of things with the picture, and everybody could clearly see that there was a goat. But wait, there's more. I guess King Charles is just the kind of guy that really likes goats, like everybody else, right? Like all these celebrities that are doing goat yoga, the Rolling Stones using goat heads on their album. Goats are just really, really popular. So popular that people, again, are doing things like goat yoga because it's healthy for you to put a goat on your back while you're doing exercise. Huh? If people can't see the direct correlation between the normalization of the term goat, when they tell you it means the greatest of all time, they're flaunting in your face goat worship, okay? They're showing you King Charles selling some useless, embarrassing-looking pottery from 55 years ago. It's making national news 3 weeks after we saw the Baphomet in the picture. And you may even remember a few years ago, because I covered this, right after the death, of course, this was the exit of Queen Elizabeth to leave the vessel that it was in at the time, which wasn't a very attractive vessel at all. But the Queen left the vessel. You might remember the Stonehenge ritual that they did, which I put up over on my website, which was, of course, removed from this platform, where they did a ritual at Stonehenge. And, of course, right when that happened, King Charles had come out. And, well, King Charles was getting very aroused by goats out in public. In fact, so much so that the mainstream media had to come out and say, no, a photo shows Welsh's battalion mascot goat, not a ram sacrificed by King Charles, because people out there were talking about a sacrifice that was being made along with the Queen's passing. But thankfully, places like the New York Times came out with fact checks, which I really needed. It really helped me out. Just like when they put that little blue box under my videos, it really helps me out, because when I make these videos, I really need Wikipedia to re-explain to me what I'm talking about and just tell everyone listening the opposite, because all that does is really just give more validity to the videos that I'm doing. That's what it should do to anybody with common sense when they're force-feeding you misinformation like they do with those Wikipedia boxes. But at the time when King Charles, went out and saw the goat, he couldn't stop smiling while meeting the goat. In fact, it was so over-the-top obvious. Even Access Hollywood put up a video about how King Charles was he couldn't believe he saw a goat. He was so excited.
King Charles III has made his way back to Wales on Friday for the first time since the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II. Before attending to business, the 73-year-old monarch met with a very important member of the Welsh Armed Forces, Siencyn IV, the goat mascot for the Royal Welsh 3rd Battalion at Cardiff Castle. A goat is the traditional mascot for the Royal Welsh, with different regiments having different names for their goat. Official mascots have a regimental number and rank. They can be promoted and demoted like human soldiers, and they even have a salary. Siencyn IV is a lance corporal.
How much more in our faces can this type of stuff get? And I'll get into this story about the pottery of this goat. Of course, this is all symbolism right in front of our faces, and nobody notices it, right? Because people have been so dumbed down. Like when I show you the collages and the montages, all this stuff with these people constantly doing the all-seeing eye symbolism, when you see the logos of all these corporations using the same symbols like pentagrams, you should start waking up. And when people aren't waking up to those things, it shows you that not only is the fluoride working, the technology is working. And the more they keep entertaining people with nonsense and putting this stuff out there on TikTok where people can only have an attention span of 5 seconds, they can't figure out what's going on. So the elites are going to continue to do ridiculous stories like this and then blast it through the mainstream media. Like, this is a story that's on the BBC. This is a story in America. The New York Post covered it. NBC, the mainstream media, has covered the fact that somebody is selling a goat from King Charles. And you can't figure out what they're trying to tell you here. These are devil worshippers. That goat that they're obsessed with, the Baphomet, you kind of see all of the agendas going on in the world that tie into the Baphomet, right? You know, the goat, he's got boobies and he's got a wiener between his legs. Have you noticed that there's an agenda going on where men don't even know if they're men and women, nobody knows what they are anymore, right? This oneness agenda. So they all worship the goat. And again, with King Charles, we've seen him doing the all-seeing eye symbolism, right? The Black Eye Club. Most of them do this, where they either wear an eye patch over their eye or they walk around with a black eye and they give you some ridiculous story about why they have a black eye. This is a ritual that's done. It's another Masonic occult ritual that's done where they have to go out in the open with their black eye. I could do a video on it. I don't think I ever have in the past. It's very obvious when most people know about it. You'll see, again, celebrities will have a black eye, then they'll come on the back, I fell off a ladder. Or, you know, King Charles will go out in public with an eye patch instead of saying, hey, you know, maybe I won't go out for about a month. I got an eye patch on. They have to go out and march around and parade around and then give you this excuse as to why they have it. But all the people in the Brotherhood, of course, know what it represents. And like I showed you in the previous video I did on that satanic painting, which also had the monarch butterfly in it, I showed you, obviously, that he's best buddies with people like Klaus Schwab and Jimmy Savile, right? These people are known by the company that they keep. It's like Jimmy Savile has been, everybody knows what Jimmy Savile is involved in, right? Well, the king wasn't just hanging out with him. It wasn't like he just showed up somewhere and they took a random picture. They were best buddies, right? I mean, how often do you need to make this clear to people who are Trump supporters? Would you be, if you found out your best friend was involved in that kind of stuff, would you be hanging out with them? Would you be friends anymore? I wouldn't. I don't care if I'd known the person since birth. If I found out a person I was associated with was doing that, not only would I not be their friends, I would probably do some private justice to take care of the person for committing the crimes that Jimmy Savile has been accused of. So here's the story that's circulating. I can't even believe that I'm reading this from the BBC, but a pottery goat made by King Charles has sold for 8,500 euros. The small ceramic animal, which had been treasured for 55 years by Canadian Raymond Patton, was auctioned off on Tuesday. And I'm sure Raymond Patton, now, how would Raymond Patton, you know, and let's be realistic, how would he realistically get this, right? I mean, what secret societies? Maybe they're members of the same secret societies at Cambridge, right? Most people don't know about any of the secret societies at any of these schools. They just tell you that they go to these schools like, oh, he went to Harvard, he went to Yale. The only one anyone ever mentions is Skull and Bones, which is, you know, it's shocking that people actually mention that, but they still dismiss it like it's a conspiracy theory. But Cambridge has the Cambridge Apostles. Obviously, King Charles doesn't need to be in a secret society. You know, he's initiated one from birth. However, he probably became associated with this guy. That's the real backstory, in my opinion. Through the Cambridge Apostles Secret Society, probably met him there, and then, you know, maybe he gave him a goat. But I'm sure there's real significance with the goat. They probably did some type of ritual together with a youngster, and maybe this was the youngster's goat. Something along those lines would be my guess. But it was given to the guy named Raymond Patton on his 21st birthday by a great aunt who worked as a cook at Cambridge University. I believe she knew the future king on a personal basis. I have treasured the goat all my life, he says. He's treasured the goat all his life. I mean, the wording of it's incredible. Of course, these are fictitious stories. And if he did actually gift it to the aunt, then it was likely that maybe the aunt performed the ritual on King Charles himself, or they did something together. But that's how these things get passed on. It wasn't passed on. She passed on this little goat, and he cherished it forever, right? I mean, give me a break. Mr. Patton said his aunt told him that Prince Charles made it. He added she was proud of the fact that he attended Cambridge University in the late 60s when she worked as a cook for the president of Queen's College. Charles Hanson of Hanson's Auctioneers added Raymond decided to part with the goat due to its historical significance. He is in his retirement years and wanted to find a new home where it be treasured for decades to come. And I'm sure the newest purchaser of this is another Satanist, because I don't know who in the world would spend $1, let alone $16,000 on this little tchotchke, but it obviously has significance to them. So when they put stuff like this out there, they put it out there because they have significant meaning to it. So I'm sure all the members of secret societies know something of this goat, right? There's significance. It's involved in some type of ritual that's probably well known with King Charles that he had to perform. And then they put this out in the open, and they expect us to believe the actual story, to believe that someone's paying $16,000, a regular person, that this is just normal. And again, right after he has this photograph drawn of him, this portrait, where you could see the goat itself in the picture. Or just the stories I covered earlier about right after the Queen passed away, wink, wink, went through that ritual at Stonehenge. Like I said, they had all these stories out there about how he couldn't stop smiling while meeting a goat. And then they were like, oh, he's not going to sacrifice the goat. It's just a military mascot, because stories were circulating that there was a goat sacrifice that occurred, right? I mean, how much more in our faces can they get with this stuff? I mean, should he just dress up as the Baphomet and come out, grab a microphone and tell everybody about the climate agenda and the World Economic Forum? Would anybody blink then? Right? What if he just mutates himself and grows breasts? Or maybe he needs to mutate himself and grow a penis. I don't know. But how much more obvious can this stuff get? It's like when you see the repetition and the pattern of this stuff, you're supposed to wake up. So when you see these people obsessed with things like goats, when you see these things obsessed with putting their hand over their eye, when you see all the same signs and symbols, right? The Masonic symbolism, we see it, at all the Masonic lodges. Then where do we see it? We see it at all the royal weddings. Nobody blinks. Nobody says anything, right? The Vatican, nobody says anything. Because it's supposed to be at random. We're supposed to believe those are random things that happen. But when you see the repetition in the pattern, you realize it's not random. So this obsession with goats is clearly not random. This isn't some random tale that King Charles just, made a goat out of nowhere from 55 years ago and they sold it, when all these other stories are out there and continually are out there about goats and goat worship. But what do they do to counteract that? They create these things like greatest of all time. Because what does that do? Well, it takes a dumbed down person and it makes them automatically dismiss anything that might trigger them to wake up. They have this ingrained in them. So that's why every celebrity out there is now out there wearing goat shirts, goat jewelry, goat this. They're doing goat yoga, goat, right? And no one says, oh, I have a goat farm. And you see Britney Spears holding a goat. All of these people are just all of a sudden obsessed with goats. And they want you to believe that it's organic. And you sit there and you go, oh, okay. So if you want to literally talk about the greatest of all time, if that's what they mean, you're telling me that people like Lil Wayne actually believe they're the greatest of all time? These rappers that you couldn't even name a song that they have in their own mind, they think that they're the greatest of all. Of course, that's not what they really think. They know why they're doing it. And then you're supposed to believe it's whatever they tell you they're doing it for. It's incredible. So King Charles, I mean, how do you not laugh sometimes at how obvious this stuff is, right? From King Charles, I mean, just a picture of King Charles that they used in the article with the goat and a young king. I mean, he looks like he was just, in a casting call for The Omen. Right, he's got a pot in his hand. He's stirring something up, right? Probably some fetus in there, which probably turned into a McDonald's burger, but he's just stirring it up. I mean, it looks like he just came out of the casting call for The Omen, does he not? Right? And he's got, he's just, what a cute little story about the goat, right? All those conspiracy nuts a few weeks ago were talking about how you could clearly see the Baphomet in that mirrored picture. How you could even see the monarch butterfly out in the open in the picture. They do this by design because they know that the common people out there, the sheeple, are so dumb. They do this stuff to rub it in our faces and then they love watching the sheeple defend them. The sheeple will be like, that's a conspiracy. He just like, this is some type of natural organic story that makes national news. That's some random ceramic, goat was made by him 55 years ago. They're telling us why. Why is this news? This is news because they know that they could do this stuff. They know people like us see it and know what it really is. And then again, they know the sheeple will come out and defend him because that's what sheeple do. So King Charles, once again, could it be more obvious, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, it's truly unbelievable. I thank you for being here. Hope you're all well. God bless you as always and your families.